What's up, Flick Connection? This is Darren, and today I'm going to tell you the top 10 classic movies you can currently watch on Netflix. So every week I try to give you a top 10 list of things you can currently watch on Netflix, and I'll cover a different genre. So if you like that type of content, definitely subscribe and click the like button to let me know I should continue making these. But this week we're going to cover the classic movies that are currently on Netflix. And to qualify as a classic for this list, I just determined arbitrarily that the movie has to be older than me. So as long as it came out before 1984, I'm classifying it as a classic. Most of the movies on this list are older. The newest movie on this list is actually from 1982. So let's go ahead and start with the list at number 10 with The Longest Day. Now this is just a classic World War II movie. It takes place during D-Day. It stars John Wayne and a handful of others. And it does a very good job of showing different points of view, both from the Allied and the German sides of the front. And it's just really well-rounded, classic movie from 1962. It's a great pick for this list, and it's all the way back at number 10 because there's some other really great classic movies on Netflix right now. Number 9, I'm going with Trading Places. It's actually one of the only comedies on this list, but I'm adding it to the list all the way back at number 9 because it is really funny, but it's just not as solid as some of the dramas that are going to come further along on this list. But it's basically just a retelling of The Prince and the Pauper. Most of you have seen it. It comes on TV all the time, so it's not big news that it's on Netflix. But this is Eddie Murphy at his peak. Not necessarily his best movie, but it certainly came out at a time where he was at his best, and he's fantastic as this. I always love Dan Aykroyd. The two of them are great in this. It's a cool story, but it is really great, and it's well worth watching. It's got laughs like from beginning to end. So one of the better comedies you can currently watch on Netflix, and certainly one of the better classics you can currently watch. My number 8 pick is actually a documentary called The Endless Summer. And the director of this movie actually just died a couple of weeks ago. But this is a classic documentary about surfers that chase summer around the world. So it's a travel documentary, but it's just really interesting. It's from 1966, and it really just has that retro Beach Boys surfer vibe throughout. But it is about travel, so it's very interesting, all the different locations that they go to. The photography is incredible, just huge waves, and everything just looks great with that real cool vintage vibe. This is actually not just a good one to watch. I actually really like to kind of have this one on in the background. Like if you were to do some sort of, particularly in the summer, if you're going to do some sort of like a luau type party, this would not be a bad one to put on mute, on the TV, just to add a little bit of visual ambiance to the party. I've done it before. Great movie though to watch with the audio on as well. At number 7, I would personally put this lower on the list, but it is really such a classic. And so many people love it. I had to put Grease at number 7. As far as musicals go, which I am not a fan of, with very few exceptions, I can stomach Grease. I don't really mind it at all. So if you know someone that likes musicals and you can't wrap your head around them or just don't like them like I do, Grease is pretty tolerable, but it's one most people have seen. But for whatever reason, Netflix just doesn't do a good job of letting you know it's there. So if you just kind of have an itch to watch a musical for some ungodly reason, Grease is there, and it's one of the better ones you could possibly watch. All right, going back to the types of movies that I like, at number 6 with Steven Spielberg's E.T. This movie is just so fantastic. It was a phenomenon when it came out. It changed things. It changed the way people looked at movies. It changed the way special effects were done. And it's just so good even today. With the popularity of shows like Stranger Things, E.T. is just still so enjoyable, and it's really what a lot of that throwback stuff is based on. And so it's got a cool 80s vibe to it. I like it a lot. It's one I watch every couple of years, and it's not going to be on Netflix forever, so I definitely recommend watching that while you can. Now at number 5, we're going to go with the oldest movie on the list from 1927, and that's Metropolis. Now, if you haven't seen this, it is an incredible silent movie. If you feel like silent movies are not your thing, start with this one. It is incredible to watch. You do not need audio, even though there is music to accompany it. There's dramatic, thematic music to accompany it. But the visuals are incredible. It's about this dystopian future. The only drawback to this being like a good introduction into silent films is it's very long. It's well over 2 hours. So you could break this up into multiples. Or, if you're not into it within the first 30 minutes, you're just not going to be into silent movies. But like I said, great place to start. Incredible visuals, incredible storytelling, all done visually with very few cue cards in between where you can read a little bit of dialogue. That's very minimal in this movie, so most of the information you're given is visual, and this movie has some incredible visuals, especially if you take into consideration that it came out before we had airplanes. I'm going to stick with sci-fi for a little bit with number 4, with 1951's The Day the Earth Stood Still. Now, to me, this whole movie plays out like a classic Twilight Zone episode. I love the Twilight Zone, and this movie does a great job. There is a remake from the 2000s with Keanu Reeves that just for whatever reason is not very good. It kind of misses the point, I think, and it really doesn't, I think, understand the core concept of The Day the Earth Stood Still, but it's still just a great sort of alien invasion movie with a lesson. And the cool thing about this is because it was made in the 50s, is it oozes that retro alien vibe that some modern movies try to recreate. This movie is where a lot of that comes from. And at number 3, I'm going to go with another one from 1951. It just so happens, and it also happens to be one of my personal favorites on the list, and that is The African Queen. Now, this is just a great classic adventure movie with Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn, and they're both on an age at this point in their careers, and it just works so well for this movie. But it's essentially about a riverboat captain taking a woman out of hostile territory in Africa during the war on a small little steamboat through this just treacherous river. So it's a really cool adventure story with 2 great, just classic Hollywood actors, kind of in top form because of their age. The movie looks amazing just because of the locations it's shot in. So I just really love this one for nostalgia purposes, but it's so well done. I've watched this one every couple of years, just because I happen to catch it or it happens to be on Netflix, and I enjoy it every single time. Number 2 is easily one of the best movies on this list, and that's To Kill a Mockingbird, made in 1962. Now, this is just a classic novel written by Harper Lee. It was actually her only novel, except for some work of hers that was recently released by heirs of hers that probably should not have been released because she didn't determine she wanted to release it. But anyway, essentially her only novel, and it is just a masterpiece of American literature. And it's brought to the screen really well acted, and everyone's seen this. This is one you have to watch in school, but it's just so well done that even though you've seen it and you know it and you get it, and it's not a particularly fun movie to watch, it's still it's so enjoyable to watch at any given time. I think it rests really well here at number 2 because Jaws is currently available on Netflix, putting it at number 1. Released in 1975, launched one of the most successful directing careers ever with Steven Spielberg. I say launched, it wasn't his first movie, but this is what propelled him to, incredible heights. We would not have a lot of amazing movies had this not been made first. That goes for Steven Spielberg movies that he would not have been able to make if it wasn't for the success of Jaws. And it goes for other movies that other filmmakers like J.J. Abrams have made because of their inspiration of movies like Jaws. So there's not a whole lot more I need to say about this movie. I love this movie every single time I watch it. But thanks for watching. Likes are always appreciated. And you will see me next time.